Everybody wants to find the perfect match for their financial needs. Secured savings, stress-free access to affordable loans, instant mobile money transfers to MTN and Orange Cameroon, and even a share in the profits as a member owner. For over 7 years, Rencam Credit Union has been the perfect match for Cameroonians living in the UK and other nationals with interest in the Cameroonian heritage. Visit rencam.co.uk. Join Rencam Credit Union today, achieving success together.
Bébé, tu me connais. Ouais, je mourrais pas si je pouvais. Ouais, juste pour te voir sourire jusqu'à la fin de nos vies. Si je pouvais, je le ferais. À tous les autres filles, hasta la vista. I'm not a playboy. I go mare, na you. I go mare, na you. I go leave you jamais, jamais. Jamais, jamais. Séparé, jamais, jamais. Na, na, na. Jamais, jamais. Ouais, oh, jamais, jamais. Oh, jamais, jamais. Divorcé, jamais, jamais. Na, na, na. Jamais, jamais. Girl, I'm living my life. Girl, I'm living my life with you. And if I go die, girl, I swear I go die for you. Last time we be start time, okay, okay. I go love you forever, okay, okay. Repose ta tête sur ma poitrine, écoutez mon cœur qui bat. Je ne sais pas si je peux vivre loin de toi. I go mare, na you. I go mare, na you. I go leave you jamais, jamais. Jamais, jamais. Séparé, jamais, jamais. Na, na, na. Jamais, jamais. Oui, oh, jamais, jamais. Oh, jamais, jamais. Divorcé, jamais, jamais. Ah, jamais, jamais. I don't leave you, jamais, jamais. Oh, jamais, jamais. Séparé, jamais, jamais. Oh, jamais, jamais. I'll never let you go, jamais, jamais. Jamais, jamais. Divorcé, jamais, jamais. Oh, jamais. It's never too late. It's never too late to love. It's never too late. It's never too late to love. Baby, toi-même tu vois notre amour, c'est mon kélé. Baby, follow me go, mon kélé. I go mare, na you. I go mare, na you. I go leave you jamais, jamais.
I hope you're sharing. I hope you're sharing to as many people as you can so that more people can join us on this very important topic. So please, please, please just share it on your wall so that your friends can see it and more people can join us. But thank you for joining us, and I'm leaving you, Mr. Leo. Hey.
Jamais, jamais, oh, jamais. Jamais, 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 oh, jamais, 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 oh, jamais, 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 oh, Jamais, 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 jamais. Lema, oh, baby, Lema, oh, baby. It's never too late. It's never too late to love. It's never too late. It's never too late to love. I love you, I love you, I love you, je t'aime. Let's be on the beat. Mr. Leo on the floor.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of of the Woman Experience with me, GORETTI, your host. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mami, Orlando, Gordillo, Cynthia, Loveline, Anago, Auntie Bibi, Masatarandang. Thank you guys so much for joining and being on time as always. For those who are joining us for the first time because of our guest, thank you. First of all, you're welcome to the Woman Experience. I hope you stay because we are on episode 49. So we have 48 wonderful episodes for you. Very interesting conversations that we have had over the past few months that you can go back and binge watch. I promise you, you will find something that you would hold dear to you. But what we have been doing here every Wednesdays and Fridays is that we have a conversation where we learn through our shared experiences. And that has been going really, really amazing. So thumbs up to the Woman Experience community. I appreciate you. And I'm so proud of the work we have done because the feedback has been phenomenal. So our platform is very, very, very interactive. The first rule, if you're new here for the first time, is we keep it positive. We keep it positive because we're here to learn. We're here to learn. And so because we're all learning from each other, whether you're watching me on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your TV, because we are all learning from each other, we've created a safe space where we can be honest, we can be vulnerable, and we can speak from the heart. And our main guest of the evening would obviously carry out most of the contributions to the conversation. But what I do is I encourage you to leave your comments, to leave your questions, to leave any resources you have, to leave everything that every thought that relates to the conversation we're having at hand. Every thought, leave it on in the comment section. And what I will do is I bring it on to the screen, I bring it onto the stream so that we can all answer it, especially as when it's relevant to what we're talking about at hand, because sometimes there are private conversations happening in the comments I hear, and sometimes I feel like I'm being left out. So that's what I do. So if you have anything, please share, please contribute, because we're here to grow our community, primarily the Cameroonian community, but we are very excited that we have been able to attract other African communities, other Africans who have become members of the Woman Experience community. So we thank you for your support. And you also, welcome to the show. Hello, Auntie Esther, who is joining us via YouTube. And for all those watching via YouTube, hi, leave your comments if you've got comments and questions, because they stream through and I can see them here via StreamYard. So thank you guys so much. So tonight, the reason why I chose that song by Mr. Leo is tonight we're talking about something that I think that is very important to the well-being, the well-being of every individual, growing up in a two-parent home. And the words of Mr. Leo, a song in Jamais Jamais, is like he's singing to a woman, but I'm sure that every child would love to hear that from a father. I will never leave you. I love you more than anything in the world. I would never leave you. That's how much you mean to me. And that is something that sadly not a lot of us, but some of our friends, brothers, cousins, people we know have gone without hearing that from one parent or the other. But because given the nature of our community, we tend to stay with our mothers. So we are often our mother's children. And so oftentimes in a home in a broken home or a single parent home, you find that the children stay with the mother and the mother side of the family. And so for the few of us who have experienced that, what it means to grow without a father, what the absence of a father figure in their lives, I think that this conversation tonight is very important, so that I really want to hear your voice. And if you're listening to me and you know someone who's gone through this, please share this to them so that they can add their voice to this conversation, because so many people have grown up with that hurt and with that void. Some of them have been able to manage it right and have lived without it, but I think that it's a conversation that needs to be had. So I thank you for spending your Friday evening with me, and I am very excited for our guest tonight. We have Dr. Celestin Atangcho, who is joining us all the way from Delaware in the United States of America. Thank you very much. I'm just going to read a bit of his bio before I bring Dr. Celestin on here. So Dr. Celestin is a Cameroonian born in Bamenda. And his alumni in Cameroon include CPC Bali, and then he came over to the USA where he went into nursing. So he has a BSc, an MSc, and a PhD. So he's a board certified nurse anesthesiologist, and he owns and manages Abuen Anesthesia Services, a staffing resource for anesthesia personnel serving hospitals and outpatient surgery centers in Delaware and surrounding states. So if you're in America, you're around Delaware, surrounding states, hey, you should get in touch with one of ours, Dr. Celestin Atangcho. So he's a community leader. He's very, very active in his alumni organization. So apart from CPC, he also went to Bali, Bali. So CPC is Bali. Yeah, I think CPC is Bali. So he's very active in his alumni organization, Bali Old Boys, who call themselves Boba USA, where he served as national vice president and national ombudsman. He's the founder and the pioneer president of his cultural group, Akum's Cultural Association Tri-State. It's Akum. I know Akum, right? They call Akum Small London, right? Yes, and he's the past treasurer of the Association of Cameroonian Nurse Anesthetics in America. He's a philanthropist. He champions many humanitarian initiatives, most notably the creation of Community Refugee Relief Initiative, CRRI Inc., an organization that provides relief, training, and empowerment to thousands of refugees and internally displaced persons from the armed conflict happening in southern Cameroon now. And he is the current president and chairman of the board of directors of CRRI Inc. And he is a husband and a father to 3. So without further ado, Dr. Atangcho, thank you so much for honoring us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, Goretti. I'm very happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've been following your show. Congratulations, episode number 49.
Yes.
I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either.
You must have a lot of passion for the topics that have been going on. And I want to commend you. Initially, I was kind of skeptical coming here. When I saw the woman experience, I'm like, okay, is that a female zone? Is that a zone where they gang up on the guys? But as much as I listen to your shows,
yeah,
I realize that it's a very positive space, and I'm very privileged to contribute to the conversation.
Thank you so much. It really is a positive space, and I owe it all to the community. We call ourselves the Woman Experience Tribe, and they have been amazing, and everyone has just really been here and really let people be vulnerable and open. And I honestly, I can't thank them enough for that. So credit goes to them. Credit goes to them. Yes, but thank you so much. So we're going to go straight into it, Doctor. We're talking today about the importance of a father figure in the life of a child. I will break it down to 2, because there is a father figure and then there's the father. So so we would start with the role of a father. So and I want you to, first of all, just define in your own words the role and the place of a father, or what is his parental responsibility.
Yeah, well, I'm happy the title of the show is The Father Figure.
Yes.
But you have the father and then the father figure. So
yes.
Talking about the father, of course, the father is the biological male parent of a child.
Yes.
And mostly in Africa, but I think globally, the father is seen as the head of the family, The father is seen as the person that brings stability to the family. The father is seen as a provider.
Mm-hmm.
The father is seen as the strong man of the house.
Yeah.
You know, I remember with my little child growing up, my son, and there's always that desire, like I want to be as strong as daddy, you know. So there's always that, and for the little girls, they feel like daddy can solve every problem.
Yes.
You know, they can bring everything to daddy and it will be solved. So that is a very important role, physically, emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
and that void in every family is very crucial. And I'm happy that we're having this conversation because this is something that everybody can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the primary responsibility of a father or any parent is the well-being of the children.
Children.
And I think it is about time we, you know, show some importance to this very, very important role.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, because there's a lot of research out there on the effects of not growing up with the father. But your story touched me a bit. So you, as a young man who grew up without a father, I can't remember, your father passed before you were born, or?
That is correct. 3 months to my birth. Yep.
Wow, 3 months to your birth. So what does that mean to you? What is fatherhood? What's a father to you? Being that you didn't grow up with one that you could call your own.
Yeah. I will be very honest with you. That is a void that till this day, I'm approaching 50 years in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't really survived that void. You know,
Mm-hmm.
My father was, I listened to stories about my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And this is somebody that I'm supposed to be close to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always look at it from a distance. Like people tell me about my father, and I'm like, that's my father. I should know more. But each time I hear a story of my dad, I can give the world to have 5 minutes with him to understand how he thinks, how he speaks, you know. And unfortunately, back in the days, my father died is almost 48 years. We don't even have videos. Very few pictures. I had to stumble on 1 or 2 pictures that I have held with a lot of, a lot of pride, and it's a precious commodity, as I was put it. No videos, so it's all about imaginations.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things that it's difficult to fill that void. I would say that I've had people that have stepped in and they have played that father role in my life, and I want to be very, very thankful to them. I am not saying that they didn't do well, but it's just so hard to fill that void completely.
Yes, I think.
I don't know. It's like I said, I'm almost 50, but I am still filling that void, you know.
Yeah. So so without, obviously, kudos to those who stepped in, but you know the way humans are, it is hard to truly embrace that which is not yours.
Absolutely.
Especially when it is biologically. And we don't blame people for that. It's just who we are. But you growing up in that space without having, because fathers are supposed to be role models, you know, girls, like they say, girls marry their fathers, boys become their fathers. But for you not having that and then growing up into the man, what kind of father are you?
Oh my God. I think I overdo it with my kids. I just want to give them all what I could not have growing up.
So you overcompensate?
I think so. And I want to spend as much time with them. Family vacation is a big thing in my household.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the right word. Overcompensate is what I do. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to strike that balance where you are showing them the love, the attention, but at the same time, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to spoil them.
Yes.
But I think I am trying to be to my kids what I could not have growing up.
Growing up. Yeah, I can only, like Ethel says, I can only imagine the overcompensation. Oh yes. So by overcompensating, I'm going to bring your wife into the conversation. What does she? Well, first of all, growing up, did she have her father?
Yes.
Okay, so she had her father. So what does she say about your parenting?
You'll be surprised though. I show all that love and being there for them, but deep down, I'm a disciplinarian. I still have that touch. I used to be a head teacher in Cameroon.
Okay.
Yes, I used to be a head teacher. So there's that discipline component that I have. But I'm trying to fine tune that with that overcompensation. And I think it's a fair balance. My wife, surprisingly, my wife does most of the discipline, like 80%. But when I come in for that 20%, the kids understand that this is serious stuff when I step in.
That's the point that I want us to hold on to. That 20% where you become dad, because as much as I think that 20% is, or even if it was 10% of the time that you came in, that's importance of the father in the child's life. So even if mom will obviously never give 100%, but even if she gives 99%, that 1% where dad steps in, that's the conversation we're trying to have, the importance of that.
Absolutely.
So the importance of that 1%, but in your case, the 20%. And how old are you?
My kids, the first one, Belna, is 26. Helen Rose, my daughter, is almost 15 in November. And my son, Bowen, is going to be 13 in 4 days' time.
Wow. Happy birthday in advance, Bowen.
I will let him know.
So your first daughter, does she have children of her own?
My first son, the first one is...
It's a boy.
No. He just got engaged.
So he's a boy.
Yes. So a boy, girl, and then boy.
Okay. And for Master Myers, who is asking what's wrong with spoiling your children, there's nothing wrong with spoiling your children at all. It is love. You're loving your children in the best way you can, but then there is overcompensation, and which often stems from a void within the parent. So the parent who overcompensates finds out whether they acknowledge it or not, but if they give it a bit of thought, research shows that by overcompensating, what you're doing is you're trying to fill a void that is in you. That's why you do that for your children. So you reflect that, and that's what we're talking about here today. That's where the conversation is going, Marsha. But thank you very much for that.
And if I may just step in real quick, spoiling is not a bad word.
No.
Spoiling is a good thing, but you have to have that fine line, because one of the things we do as parents, we are preparing the kids to be successful out of the house. So you want to make sure. Yes, exactly. So you want to make sure that you don't do stuff for them. You teach them how to do stuff for themselves, so that when they get out there, they'll be successful. So spoiling can be good and bad depending on that line.
So let's go. So as a parent, in your case, you're happily married and that works, but should a man's responsibility towards his children be conditioned to his relationship with the mother?
No, I would say no.
And why would you say?
Ideally, it is good when both parents are involved in bringing up the child.
Yeah.
Of course, things happen. The ideal family, I mean, you look at the data out there, the divorce rates are so high, so things don't always go right with a family unit, father, mother, the children.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that we should all try to do as parents is to put priority on the children. No matter what happens between the parents, if things get sour down the road, you can find a way to be there for the children. You can find a way to have that open communication for the sake of the children. Because at the end of the day, the children are innocent in all of this. And we owe them that duty, we owe them that responsibility to find common ground just for their sake.
That's just for their sake, but we don't always have that, right? That's how
that is the problem. And I think that's something that we can all think about, we can all improve on.
Yeah.
That is something that is really lacking. And you find out that the children are left in the middle.
And if you're watching this tonight and you find yourself in that type of situation where you don't get along with the mother of your children, or you don't get along with the father of your children, I want you to just take a minute, and if you can, close your eyes, or if you can't close your eyes, just look back at your childhood and imagine the ideal father. Imagine the ideal father, or imagine the father you wished you had, like you did in your case, doctor. Imagine the father that you wished you had, and ask yourself, do your children deserve that kind of father? Do your children deserve that kind of father? And if your children deserve that kind of father, what steps can you take to give them that which you think is deserving of them? So I just want you to think about that. Forget the problems you have with each other, but look at your child. Do your children deserve, or do your children deserve the father you are right now? The father you are to your children, is that the best that your children could have? Is that the best that you know how to offer? Is this what you think your children deserve? What's your ideal of fatherhood? Is that who you are to your children? Think about it from that angle as we continue along. Doc, you're nodding.
Yep, I think that is very touching. One of the things that we don't realize is these children grow up so quickly.
They do.
I look at the pictures of my daughter, for instance, and I was just teasing her, like, what happened to my little girl? I look at a picture when she was like 3, and now she's like a woman. She's almost 15.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine those moments. Those are the moments that you can never take back.
Never.
So I just want to join my voice to what you just said right now.
Mm-hmm.
Time is ticking away. It is the right time is now to connect with your father, to connect with your child,
mm-hmm.
and especially for the fathers.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the situation is, find the space, put in the effort to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And also for the female parent, the mothers, also usually this relationship end up with some very big fights and some very difficult situations. Just find it for the sake of the child to open up,
mm-hmm.
to allow that child to have a relationship with the father.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody has to play their role in making that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, time waits for no one.
Mm-hmm.
The moment is now.
I
if
agree.
You're in that situation, do everything it takes to make amends today.
Mm-hmm. So you parenting now in the US and seeing what you see now, because you haven't grown up in Cameroon without a father, and you see being in the US now, and you see these young children without fathers. What are the differences, if any, between that situation, between growing up fatherless in Cameroon or growing up fatherless in the Western world? What major differences have you noticed?
In Africa, it's often said it takes a village to raise a child.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have an advantage in Africa, because usually when the biological parent is not there,
mm-hmm.
there's some uncle, some relative that usually steps in.
Yeah.
Like in my case, my father died when, before I was born. My mother was struggling with me.
Yeah.
My grandmother stepped in, took me under her wings, and with the husband, that's how I grew up. So that is the father figure that I knew growing up.
Your grandpa was your father figure?
Not my grandpa, my grandma's husband.
Okay.
Yes. So that's who brought me up. And like I said, in Africa, and besides that, there was uncles, even my elder brothers, as young as they were, they had to step in and provide that support. It is very difficult to see that in the West.
Mm-hmm.
In the West, we get so busy, and everybody gets up and goes to work. They come back in the evening, and these kids get lost along the way.
Yeah.
They get lost along the way. In Africa, if there's something wrong in the house, the father is not there. Even the neighbor may step in.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the advantages we had growing up in Africa that we don't do that today here in the West because of the schedule and the way the society is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is important for those of us living in the US, in the UK, and in Europe, if you have let's be a community out here as well. Let's be a community. If you see that there's a child that is struggling, if you see your friend's child struggling, if you can step in, please do.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised how much impact that may be to that child.
Yes, and I've been watching quite a few shows on this, and I learned something that a lot of these speakers all said. They say that, especially these people who talk on fatherless boys, especially in Africa, among African Americans, you gain something by parenting a child. Especially for those of you who grew up without fathers, who grew up in a situation, be it maybe you're like Dr. Celestin, where your father passed before you were born, or your father abandoned your home, or all of that. By parenting, you should actively parent another child, because when you parent a child, you heal. You indirectly parent yourself. And that, or not just that child, through that child, you are being parented. That child is parenting you in a way. Do you agree with that?
I can't agree more with that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that drive me today is my humanitarian work.
Mm-hmm.
I was invited to one function recently, and it was all about raising funds for orphans.
Mm-hmm.
When I was invited there, they didn't know about my background at all. But when I spoke during that ceremony, that is when the organizers realized that I was an orphan. I'm saying was because it seems like UNICEF defines an orphan 18 years and below.
Yeah.
It feels like an orphan for life. Anyway, when I look at each of these children out there, those who don't have father figures, I see myself in each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And every opportunity that I have to be impactful, every opportunity that I have to touch one or two, it is healing for me.
Yeah.
And that is one of the best things that I love to do, because I feel like that could have been me, know, and that reaching out is very therapeutic.
Yes, it really is. And for those of you, because a lot of people have just joined us recently, welcome to the Woman Experience. We were waiting for you all. But yeah, you know how we do here every Wednesday and Friday. So we are talking with Dr. Celestin, and we are talking about the importance of a father figure in the life of a child. But then now we are on fathers. We're talking about the importance of a father in the life of a child. So, Doctor, I'm going to focus now on those fathers who deliberately abandon their children, because due to whatever reason, they decide that they don't want to be part of this child's life. I don't understand it. I can't claim to understand it. There are so many reasons for that, but what, in your experience, and what are the effects of that kind of abandonment on a child as they grow up into adulthood?
I can't even imagine that. In my case, I don't have a father because he died.
Yeah.
You deal with that and you understand that it's an impossibility to reestablish that relationship. But to know that your father exists out there and you have been abandoned, I can't even imagine that. You feel a sense of hopelessness. You feel like you're not worthy as a child.
Yeah.
You feel like you did something wrong. And there are some children that internalize that blame. Yeah. And before you know, they have all sorts of emotional problems. There's difficulty, of course, in the household. Yeah. Because mom is trying to overcompensate. Mom is trying to be the mom and the dad. She's stretched thin. She gets stressed out. And she also gets, emotionally, involved in the whole thing. So it's a big circus of emotions.
Yeah.
For the single parent, for the child. I don't know. People leave the house for all sorts of reasons. I mean, let me play a little bit of devil advocate here. Sometimes in life, you want to sort yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you are not in the best shape to be a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you are in some kind of a very emotional setup. Some of these divorces,
Mm-hmm.
get very nasty.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that space
Mm-hmm.
for everybody to heal.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter what, if the man needs to step aside for a few moments to get himself in order,
Mm-hmm.
that should be as brief as possible. And as soon as he is ready, he should get right back
Mm-hmm.
to establishing that relationship with the child.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like I always, it takes two.
Yeah.
The mother also has to be receptive
Yeah.
to this guy coming in to be there for the child.
Mm-hmm.
But I will not imagine, just going out there, abandoning your child because of a problem you have with the mother. That is something that I cannot understand.
Yeah, but that's some people's reality, But if
Yeah.
you're speaking to a man today who is watching this show and for whatever reasons has decided that because he doesn't want to deal with, for whatever reasons, he's cut off away from his children, what would you say to that man, doctor?
It is often said the child is the father of man. This child is going to grow up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And sooner or later, I don't know any example where somebody abandoned the child and up to the point where they're dying, they don't have a regret, a deep regret for that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to find yourself in that situation where, you're old and you're lonely and you don't have that connection with your child.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one person that no matter what, blood is blood. Even in the West, I know in Africa we connect well with blood. Even in the West,
Mm-hmm.
that blood connection is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen situations where parents have shown up later on, especially when the child becomes very successful,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of time they would fault the child for not reconnecting with the father.
Mm-hmm.
If you are that man today and you have that child somewhere, no matter what happened with the mother, try to isolate this child and be there for them. That is the most important duty of every parent.
Especially,
please don't let another day go by. Do it today.
So Masatarandang says some estranged wives make it very difficult for fathers.
That is so true. And that is unfortunate. That is why we have to rethink these things. We have to be able to let go for the sake of the child. And that is also healing for the parents. If you have some bitter disagreement with your ex, for the sake of the child, allow that window for those two parties to connect. You can step away if you want to, but give them that moment to have that one-on-one relationship. It is very important.
And Maflo says your participation in your child's life is imperative. And I think I'll add my voice to that to say that some relationships are toxic, and like Doctor has said, they end up really, really nasty, and then there is no forgiveness involved. And so you can carry that pain, the pain that you feel for the parents and the circumstances surrounding your breakup, you carry that pain and you extend it to your offsprings. But I think if I'm speaking to fathers or mothers, but in this case, we're talking fathers who find themselves in this situation where they're like, I want nothing to do with that woman. I don't want nothing to do with her children. I want you to put yourself in the child's shoes. Put for 1 day, 1 second, whatever. Imagine yourself as that child, the confusion, the turmoil. Why doesn't daddy love me? Why doesn't daddy come back? Why didn't daddy care enough? Why? those questions run through your mind right up to adulthood. You're saying you're nearing 50, doctor, and you still feel the void of your father in your life. Then imagine a child who knows that the parent intentionally stepped away. The damage that does to the human mind is what I want us to talk about now. Because for girls, it's commonly termed daddy issues, right? They always say this girl has daddy issues. What are daddy issues? Daddy issues oftentimes present themselves in where a girl is looking for her father in men. You know, so she's consistently looking for her father in a man, because the truth is that we often marry our fathers. It's the truth. I married a man very similar to my father. But so the girl grows up looking for that father in every man that she meets. You know, sometimes we may be lucky. Our girls are not promiscuous because we come from a society where, you know, there's still a bit of moral values, and so we don't suffer a lot from promiscuity because of that. Because, like you said, there's people step in and take over the father figure space. But for those of us who are raising children in the West, and where it is a more selfish society, we need to rethink such behaviors, because the damage that you would do on this one human being, you would live the rest of your life, you know, wishing you could take it back, you know. So, but I know how it presents for some. In girls, again, daddy issues presents with lack of trust. They don't trust any man, you know.
Absolutely.
And even when they find a man that they love and they try to give themselves to, they would always hold part of themselves back. They will never be able to freely give unless maybe they've had therapy and they've sought help, you know. And they would find that in their parenting when they become adults, or they become mothers, if they become mothers at all. They will find that in their parenting, that lack of trust. Because how do you trust if somebody, if from your formative age, you've been shown that somebody that is a human in this world that doesn't want you, when that human is supposed to want you forever? How do you trust? So how does that now, Doc, present itself? How does daddy issues present itself in men?
There's always something about, like I said in the beginning, the little boy sees the father as the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the little boy want to be the father when they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a father, it's not about you at that moment. You have that responsibility because you are that role model. That child want to be you.
Mm-hmm.
How that child treats a woman, how that child is respectful, you know, how that child behaves out there comes a lot from you at home.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very important to have that presence throughout the child's life. In the absence of a father, a lot of these young guys, you see, they want to grow up, you know, they want to protect mommy. You see a young guy, you know, the good ones. I was looking at some studies. It's like the child want to grow up quickly. You know, it's like the child is missing up on some developmental stages because they want to rush and fill that void that daddy left.
Yeah.
So such a child would never be, you know, I mean, like you said, there are a few situations where they succeed, whatever success is, but there's always that void that is difficult to replace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that trust, you mentioned trust. And for the child who's sitting at home and daddy left, unfortunately, a lot of them feel like they did something wrong.
Yeah.
They feel like they did something wrong. So it's important for this father to even write something. I mean, there's a time where, like I said, that the father may need to step away. There are people that have emotional problems that they need to sort out before they connect with the child. Because let's not forget, some of these relationships may be toxic. There's a stage where daddy is in a breakdown state that he needs to take some time off, sort himself out to be a better father. Even during those moments, it is important to communicate. That communication is very important. If you cannot physically communicate to that child, write something that I'm sorry, I'll be away for such a time. I have to sort myself out. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
And as soon as possible, please come back and have that relationship with that child.
Mm-hmm. So there is a question. Would you say that there are ever instances where a child is better off without their father?
Yes. there are situations where, like I said, if the father is emotionally unstable,
yeah,
if there are some safety issues,
mm-hmm.
There are sometimes you've seen it here. Somebody would harm the spouse and then inflict pain on the children.
Yeah.
You have those kind of scenarios, but those are very rare. But of course, safety always trumps these relationships.
Yeah.
So there are a few circumstances where the father may be very unstable, and at that point they are way better off without connecting with the children. Absolutely.
So Eunice says every child deserves the right to good parenting, and no matter the circumstances, we have to be there for our children. Hi, Eunice.
Absolutely. There's no greater responsibility for any parent than to be there for the children.
So Elise says parents need to put the children first. If you've had children with someone you're no longer with, it could be difficult on several levels. His new partner may not want your kids. The dad may deliberately decide to stay away from the children because they no longer have a good relationship, etc. So, but regardless of the situation, she's saying put your children first. So Angel is asking you, okay, what's doctor's opinion on bringing in the family court when everything else fails, like mediation and stuff, for men who are not making themselves available to children who want a relationship with them?
I mean, this is not a matter for the courts. Of course, the court can enforce certain responsibilities, for instance, financial responsibilities, child support, and all of that. But in terms of a relationship, how does a court mandate somebody to have a relationship with a child? It is something that has to be voluntary. If it takes the court to establish that, which I don't think that is even possible, how are you going to force a parent to be there you could force them to be there in terms of responsibility-wise, financial, but having a relationship with the child and vice versa, it has to be voluntary. It has to be voluntary. Otherwise, it's not healthy. Because that's another thing. Some of these situations, the father comes in, and then the child's expectation goes up, and then he disappears again.
Yes, again.
It is worse to come and disappear, because that's just emotionally drowning for that child. So that's one of those things that you can't force it. It has to be natural.
Yeah, because what children need in their life is constant. They need consistency. They need consistency.
Yeah, very important, that consistency.
So what would you say? Sorry, let me see if there's a question before I move on. Yeah. So what would you say about children who deliberately cut off from their fathers? What would you say to those children, no matter the reason, who deliberately cut off from their fathers? Are there situations where a child, it's two ways. When the child deliberately, or an adult or a young man, at whatever stage you are in your life, when you deliberately cut off from your father, is it possible to continue the rest of your life without missing that void?
I find that very difficult. But for a child to get to that point where they want nothing to do with their fathers, something must have happened. They must have seen some terrible acts from the father, especially towards their mother. The father must have done something to scare them. I don't think a child would just develop those kind of feelings overnight. Something must have happened. But unfortunately, sometimes too, it is sometimes some mothers can poison the mind of the child towards the father.
Yeah, somebody said that.
That does happen as well.
Yeah.
So if the child has not seen any first-hand acts that would bring them to that decision, I would advise that child to have an opportunity to hear what the daddy has to say about whatever questions they may have, because there are always two sides of the story. There are some mothers who would not want the child to have a relationship with the father, and they want to monopolize that child, and they would poison the child's mind. It is important that the child has the opportunity to hear what the father has to say, and then make up their own minds.
Yes, yeah, especially as they become men, adults themselves.
Yeah.
Mimi says, what fathers only have relationships with their kids if they want to, and fathers or kids should not be forced to have a relationship with each other. Do you agree with that?
I do agree. It is something that has to be voluntary. It has to come from the heart. You can, and I've seen a lot of cases in Africa. I'll give an example. The former Ghanaian international soccer player, Essien, the father came to his life because he became successful. Unfortunately, it has to be natural. It doesn't have to be driven by success or for material reasons. It has to be a genuine relationship. And it's important that whatever party should spot that out, especially the child. The father cannot just show up when you're on the spotlight. It has to be natural, because otherwise the child is going to be heartbroken again, because the father is going to disappear when they have succeeded in acquiring whatever brought them in, not that natural desire to establish a relationship.
So in your experience as a man and growing up as a man, knowing as many men as possible, you probably know men who find themselves in those situations. How do those kind of people who have deliberately, like a Mark Essien, how do they fill that void? Is there a way to fill that void of because yes, it's a conscious decision you have made. I don't want this person in my life, I cut them off. But how do you not miss them? Do you
miss them? You do miss them. If anybody tells you they don't miss their father in their life, they're just in denial. Deep down, they miss, that's the void. That what a father figure can do is to try to minimize that void as much as possible. Unfortunately, it cannot be replaced. It cannot be replaced. Your father is your father.
Yeah.
You can have somebody that steps in and be the best father figure.
Yeah.
But they cannot truly replace your father, because you're always thinking, what if? Did I do something wrong? You always second guess yourself and question your actions or failure to act in certain situations. But that's a void that unfortunately cannot be filled. That's why it is very important for the biological fathers, if there's any single opportunity to reach out and establish a relationship, please do not hesitate.
Please do not hesitate. So if you find yourself in that situation now, no matter how angry you are, soften your heart, as we say. Soften your heart and think about your child. Put your child first. Mimi asked the question, what are your thoughts on the current epidemic with husbands having issues with their wives being strong?
Yeah. That is a very, very tricky, there's this notion, especially with our African men, the man has to be the man. The man has to be the provider. The man, growing up, the woman is the housewife, and women did not go to school. So unfortunately, a lot of us African men have grown up with that mentality, to the point where we become threatened when the woman, is successful. That's something that we really need to work on. I think we need to, as men, maybe we need to have some group sessions. One thing that women do, I see, and I'll commend women for that. You have a lot of women sessions and all of that going on everywhere. Like right here on this show, try to empower women. I think we men, we don't talk. We just soften in silence. I think it is important that men should get together and help one another out. These are some of those things that a man is sitting there, and maybe if they had gotten together in a session, they'll be able to have those exchanges, and they may come home with a different mindset. Unfortunately, the man sits there, he suffers in silence, and then he gets intimidated when the wife becomes successful. I don't want to throw all the blame on the man. How does a woman behave when they become more successful than the man? Did they suddenly change from what they were doing? Are they underlooking on the man? So this is something that we have to embrace as a community. I mean, this is the 21st century. Women are going to school now. Women are getting successful. And that is something that we need to teach our girls and our little boys growing up. Think about your daughter. What I would tell the men is, don't look at your wife as a woman. Look at your wife in the eyes of your daughter and your mother or your sister. Won't you want them to be successful?
You will.
So don't look at that woman as a wife. Look at that woman in the eyes of your daughter. Because to be honest with you, I want the best for my daughter. And if I want the best for my daughter, I should be able to appreciate another daughter, another female who is my wife in my house. So, but I think men should get out more and have conversations. I think that is one key thing that is missing with men. We don't talk. We sit there and we get stressed up. And then when that outburst comes, is lethal in so many cases we've seen recently.
Yeah, it really is. So I agree with you about men talking. I was having this conversation a couple of days ago, and the person that was having it was saying that you guys can't expect us to talk. We don't talk. But the world is changing. You guys need to talk.
We need to talk.
Changing.
We need to talk.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised. One of my friends told me when he came into US, he was in some group, a support group for men, battered men. Believe it or not, there are some men that go through. But I think it's not a weakness to talk. Everybody gets to a point where they get stressed out and they just need a little bit of support, a little bit of some reminder of what could be the positive outcomes of what you maybe through a tunnel vision you're seeing it as negative. Maybe there's a positive spin that you're missing. So it only comes through true and genuine conversations. And I think we have to talk as men. We really need to talk more.
Thank you very much for that. I agree with you so much. And for those of you who are just joining, welcome to the Woman Experience. Thank you for joining. And Saturday is tomorrow, Saturday, the 10th of October, is World Mental Health Day. And on this show, you remember we've done our show on mental health. We had a series, 4-part series, and it was amazing. And we used that to do a short film on mental health, which is currently on my YouTube channel called The GORETTI Experience. So please, if you haven't seen it yet, search for The GORETTI Experience on YouTube and go and watch it. Join us to commemorate Mental Health Day via watching that film and supporting us. So thank you. Doctor, thank you so much. These have been great points. I'm just going to ask Tessie's question. Tessie's asking, Doctor, what will you say about polygamous fathers who clearly show affection and concern to one woman's children and not to the other, but only come to them in time of material need? Do you think it is possible for the children to miss their dad?
It is. It is very. It's a very difficult place to be when you don't feel wanted. I don't know. Polygamous homes. Usually in Africa, my experience is that most of the fathers, I don't know how they do it, but they have been able to demonstrate, in Africa, parents always have their favorite child. And a lot of times they do it so openly. I remember my mom used to be very everybody knew this is my mother's favorite child, and that was no secret. You know, it's something that can be very dangerous. You know, and it depends how that child receives that. If they see it as rejection, it could be potentially very, very problematic.
Yeah.
And of course, if you don't feel welcome, if you feel abandoned, you don't feel loved as a child, it can be very difficult to deal with that. So I think that is that situation where if the mother is there, they can step in. Sometimes it's good to, there are times where my wife had told me something about my son. Like maybe I was a little bit hard on something, and then my wife would tell me behind, like, okay, this is what the child was expecting, and you know. So it's important for the other parent to also, you know, step in and maybe do a gentle reminder on the father, like, you know what, this child may need more support if you behave this way. You know, it takes two to manage family, but any kind of rejection or feeling of you know, not wanted, it can be very troubling for a child.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So one of the reasons why we decided to have this conversation is because we found out in our community there are quite a few women, a few adults, people whose mothers refused to tell them who their biological fathers were. So whose mothers deliberately kept the fathers away from the children. And we have found that obviously the reason why we're talking about this, because we find that there's a lot of that, there's again that void. I keep using the word, there's that void, you know, with these adults growing up. So what would you tell, and mothers who are in relationships where you're hurting because of what this man did that is so unforgivable, doctor, what would you say to that kind of woman? And then after you say that, what would you say to the child who is now an adult and trying to deal with this?
Yeah, it is very difficult for a child to, you know, not to be told who their biological father is. I will tell you this from personal experience. When I was living with my grandmother, and my grandfather showed me love and was there for me every step of the way. But deep down, I knew he wasn't my dad. And there was always that lingering question who my dad was. And when I finally told my grandmother, she was very shocked. Like, she thought I didn't know that they were not my biological parents. And when they knew, they were very disappointed. So I get that sense. And they were doing that from a protection angle. There are times where the mother is not trying to tell the child who the biological father is for one reason or the other. We have seen some very terrible situations, a child through rape or some reason, and sometimes it's even a member of the family.
Yeah.
How do you tell a child that, you know, their father is maybe some uncle or some, you know? But that is a conversation that would have to happen. But I think it has to be age appropriate. You cannot tell a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old. I think that is a conversation that can happen when they are maybe 18. It depends on how the maturity level of the child. So it's one of those, every situation is different. But when the child can comprehend things, it is important that they get that information. It is not for us to withhold that information from that child. It's one of those difficult, you're caught between a rock and a hard place. But at the end of the day, the child deserves to know who their biological father is. And whatever relationship that the child is going to, you know, foster with their father, it is up to them. But they need to know all the facts from both sides.
Now, what would you say to the child or the adult who finds themselves in that position now, and let's say maybe the father is alive still? What would you say?
You know, if I'm that child who is an adult today and my father has not been in my life, I would reach out to him and try to understand why.
Right.
Have an open mind, reach out to your father and hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
And after that, you can make a decision because everybody is different. Everybody comprehends things differently. But at least give your father a listening ear and have an open mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will encourage the mothers to also play a role in that. You may think that no matter what the problem is between you and your ex, that is, you're doing that for your child. That's something that is very important. You are doing that for your child. Your child may appear strong in front of you, but they are missing something. They may not tell you because they don't want to hurt you. They may not tell you because they don't want to come across as if they don't appreciate all what you've been or what you've done for them. But that void is always going to be there. If you truly love that child, encourage them to reach out to their father and let them have that open communication.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
It really is a win-win. Gerald is saying that women have always played a strong economic role in our community. I saw my grandmother's farm and they were the providers. Men prefer respect to love. I think he's talking, that was when we're talking about
yes,
powerful women and strong women.
Yeah, women have always shown strength.
Yeah.
Even from the background, they have always shown strength. It is just now that in the modern world, it is coming out more because of the exposure to education and all of that. They have always been powerful. Women have always been powerful.
Yeah. I mean, even physiologically, the fact that we can carry these children and birth them, because if I tell you how much
I will be the first to tell you, I can't even imagine that. I can't imagine that.
The pain of labor, my God.
I can't imagine that. So women have their place. Women should be respected. And I just want to add my voice here. There's this, what is popular or very, this whole rape issue in our community. I want to join my voice to say no to rape, and I want to encourage the women that have mustered that courage to come out and tell their story.
Yeah.
We have to encourage them and support them.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. So, and on that, Jane Forrest says, Doctor, thank you for saying this, but I still think some mothers do this for their own satisfaction.
Unfortunately, that is so true.
I am in my 30s and I still don't know mine.
Yeah, that is, if there's any, the child can never have completeness without knowing who their biological father is.
No.
So I just want to plead on the mothers, no matter what that guy did to you, you are not doing that for him, you're doing that for that child. If you truly love your child, let that child have that opportunity to hear what the father has to say.
Yeah.
At least let that listening ear and that open mind should be encouraged.
But hold on, what would you now say to, as Tessie is asking, what will you say to a child who has seen his or her father disrespect and abuse their mother openly over and over, and the father is not interested in having a discussion with the children or explaining what's going on? How would you advise these children to keep loving their dad?
In that case, the child has seen for themselves. They know what they have seen.
Yeah.
It's not a one-sided story. They know what they know. So it's up to them to make up their mind at that point. Yeah. I'm not saying that they have to have a relationship with their father. No. If that relationship is going to be toxic, if that relationship is not going to be productive, then it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
But then I think where I want you to also answer is that they shouldn't think that cutting off their father will make them forget their father, or because you will still have to deal with the pain of that void.
Right. But if you have seen your father behave in that kind of a way, if you have seen your father disrespect your mother, if you have seen your father beat up your mother, if you have seen your father, sometimes the fathers are directly abusive to the children.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get to that point where you feel like your father regrets what happened in the past, and you can see some remorse behavior from them, and you truly believe that they are genuine in their asking for forgiveness, then you may give them a second chance. But it's up to the individual, because at the end of the day, you don't want to put your safety in jeopardy. Yeah. It is what I'm trying to say here is let the child know all the information. Yeah. Let the child know the facts from both sides and make their decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. Oh, that's unfortunate, Jane Forrest. Jane Forrest says, my own mother doesn't speak to me because I asked to know my father.
Oh man, for how long? Because there's that thing. I know initially there's that disappointment. Initially, the mother may feel you are reaching out to your father because you're not satisfied with what I gave you. You're not satisfied with the upbringing I gave. But usually that should not last for too long. I don't know how long that situation has been, but it shouldn't last for too long.
So what about a situation where a father disowns their child? What would you say to that man, a father who would openly disown a child for whatever reason? Especially a child under the age of 18, because some children can be a thorn in your flesh.
Right, they can be.
But at what point do you get to the point where you disown a child let's say the child's under 18, because you can disown an adult. They are responsible for their decisions that they've made if they want to be a thorn in your flesh. But a child under 18, what would you say to a father that gets to that point, that decides that, okay, to the child's face, I don't want you in my life anymore?
That's a tough place to be. That's a tough decision to arrive at as a father. I wouldn't imagine what the child must have done to get the father to that point where they don't want anything to do with the child. You know, of course, there's all kinds of scenarios. But like what you said, if the child, you know, everybody deserves a second chance.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves a second chance. If the child did something when they were younger, you know, I think if they show that they have learned from that and they are ready to move on, that father should reconsider, because, you know, time waits for no one. I think there's always this thing, both sides, either from the father to the child to the father. It's all about having an open mind.
Yeah.
Trying to give everybody a second chance, because people do make mistakes. And you can tell if somebody is making an effort to be a better person. Let that person have a chance.
And I'm going to just read Bessie, I don't know about that. Tessie's question is asking you. I'm going to read that after. Gerald Passy says, if your father becomes estranged, move on. Bill Clinton, Gerald Ford moved on to be president. The world is complex. Do you agree with that, Doctor?
Yep. That is so true.
Wow.
And like I said, you know, you only open up to somebody who opens up to you. You cannot force a relationship. It's going to hold you back. So I can agree more with Gerard. If your father is not willing to, because it's only going to hold you back if you're trying to reach out and they're not receptive to that. Just move on. As difficult as it is, just move on.
So I think that applies to you, Jane Forrest, who says her mother hasn't spoken to her for 3 years now.
That is kind of a difficult situation. Just for reaching out to the father, that is, yeah. I mean, maybe I'll advise Jane to get some family members to try to reason with their mother, because I think the mother is thinking that she has taken sides. You know, it's not they are both parents. You have a right to have both parents in your life. And by accepting to talk to your father, you're not validating what he might have done to your mother. It's by no means validation. It's just a relationship that, you know, is helpful, you know. And I hope that the mother comes around and understands that this is not taking sides. This is not validating past behaviors. It's just something that it should happen for healing and for the child to have that completeness.
So Tess's question is saying that she's like, I'm gonna read my question. Tessie asks that, Doctor, do you know if there is an option to decide which mother or father brings you to earth? Tessie.
Oh, that's interesting. One of those things we can choose. The good thing about the question is that you can choose some good friends, you know. Unfortunately, we cannot pick our parents. We cannot pick. I think biology these days, with all the technology, people look for different kind of genes and all of that, artificial stuff. But you can't choose your parents, you can't choose your siblings. But the good news is that you can choose your friends. So that's
At least we have that.
yeah, we can choose our friends wisely.
So there, I'm going to read this. According to a UNICEF report, they say that children, the absence of a father in a child's life is not an isolated risk factor. It can definitely take a toll on the development of children. And it's important to note, as many will argue, that one parental role is more significant than the other. That it's simply not true. One parental role is not more significant than the other. That's what UNICEF's report says.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I just want to throw something there. It's good that we have this in perspective. According to UNICEF, there are 1.2 million orphans in Cameroon, and that is as of 2010.
Yeah.
You know, so those are 1.2 million children without fathers. And then if you add to those that have been in that situation because of separation, you know, 1.2 million is bigger than Equatorial Guinea as a country. So let's think about that, you know. So what I'm trying to say here is there are so many children out there in Cameroon that need us. Let us go back to what we used to do. Reach out, be helpful. If you hear there's something about an orphan, go in there, support, adopt, do whatever you need to do to reduce that burden. It is there in our community. We need to really do something about it.
Yeah. That we have to bring back that community spirit wherever we are, where you know you are walking on the road and your mother's friend, not even your mother's family, sees you doing some nonsense and good.
Right. You get a whooping right there.
Yeah, discipline
you get a whooping right there. Yep.
Yeah. Although
and you're better behaved because you know everybody's watching.
Exactly that. But I see that out here, especially out here in London, I see that a lot among Nigerians. You just hear Nigerian women disciplining children on the bus, like, so there's still that community spirit, and
there is.
I hope
that works for us.
Yes,
that is why, I mean, if you look at it statistically, I think the African children do better because of that discipline, you know, and that is exactly why you need both parents to be involved in the child's life, because like you said, every parent brings in something into that whole well-being of that child.
Yeah.
If you don't have to be together to be involved in the child's life. You don't have to be together. That is something that we should, you know, but it is very important to give a chance to do whatever it takes to be part of that child's life. And every contribution goes a long way.
And I'll add to that to say it's never too late.
Never too late, indeed.
It's never too late.
You just have to have that open mind, a forgiving mind, and try to make the child a priority. It's not about us.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. We have to take ourselves out of the equation. Angel is asking you, or saying, it is easy for grown-up children to understand and make a decision about the absent parent, but how do you relate to younger children who cannot understand? Yeah, well, asking mommy, why did daddy leave? Where is daddy? When is daddy coming back? Mommy, I want daddy. Why doesn't daddy love me? What do you tell that kind of child?
I think that is one thing that we don't do a lot as African parents is get external help. There are therapists out there. There are people that are trained to help in those circumstances. Let us not be shy to reach out. You know, there are experts who will come in and be able to have that conversation with that child so that they can understand what is going on. Our children are so smart. If you think that a 6-year-old does not know what is happening, then you're fooling yourself. They are so smart. They can understand what is going on. So let's not wait till later. Get some help as soon as possible so that the child can understand the environment and what is going on sooner than later.
And for a man who is probably likes a woman but is afraid, because let me take it a few steps back. We come from a community, because I see them talking about adoption in the comments, and we come from a community where we are not taught to take one that is not of our blood into our own homes as family. So we will accept our cousins, we'll accept everyone else, but it's very hard to see a situation where they just took a child that was struggling and brought into the home and raised as one of theirs. So for people who still have that mindset, I'll go specifically to men. For a man who maybe really likes a girl, but she has children and they are not his, and he's thinking, I don't want, how do I raise another man's child? Or that's not my child. Maybe that's what's hindering him from his happiness. What would you say to that kind of man?
I will use myself as an example. My first child is not biologically mine.
Wow.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Growing up, there's that fairy imagination. You get old, you get married to a virgin, or and then you raise children. I had that mindset. Like, not a lot of African men are still struggling with that. When I met my wife, I would tell you that even my family, they were not receptive,
right,
initially, because of that fact that she had a child, previously, mm-hmm. and somehow every situation is different. When you meet the right person, you tend to overcome some obstacles. Because I could tell you, growing up, I knew it has to be a woman with no children. I guess these days they call it baggages or something. But guess what? Today I can be more proud of my son, the man that he has become. Mm-hmm. And that's one of those things that, I mean, he has become a very respectful, very successful young man. And I am so proud of him. I'm so proud of that decision. So I'm telling every man out there, let's forget about those stigmas and those mindsets we had growing up. Mm-hmm. If you meet the right person, even if they have children, you can make it work. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you be very happy that you did what you did. In my case, I will not have it any other way. So there's some of those things that we need to outgrow, and we have to be more positive thinking. It's not a baggage, it's an addition, a very and the fact that this young man had the opportunity. So it's not only having a family, it's also stepping in and playing that father figure. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win, and I will encourage men not to shy or be intimidated when a woman comes with children. Mm-hmm. You can embrace them and you become one happy family. That is the case with me.
That's the case with you, but I think I'm echoing. That's the case with you, but I'm going to ask you to break it down a little bit more. At what age did you meet your son, and what did you tell yourself to begin to love him like your own? What did you tell yourself? Because there must have been some.
Of course, it's not easy. I think I just went through. It's not easy. It's a whole process. It's like two strangers getting to know one another, and in my case, all this happened while he was in Cameroon. Mm-hmm. So he came to the US when he was, I think, 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, I'd met him a few times in Cameroon. Mm-hmm. But we brought him to the US when he was like 10, 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And it was all about getting to know him and trying to understand, how he behaves, and trying to give him to open up to him so that he can open up to me. Yeah. It takes as the parent, it was my responsibility to make that happen, mm-hmm. to open up to him, to embrace him, and to make sure that he feels comfortable. He doesn't feel like a stranger in the house.
Yeah.
And just show him some encouragement, show him love, and support him as much as possible. It's one of those things. It's a day-by-day process.
Yeah.
It's a day-by-day process. It doesn't happen overnight, and I think it's easier when they're younger.
Mm-hmm.
It is easier when they're younger because you can mold them, you know. But when you wait until, that's why, I mean, we keep saying this, we may repeat it over and over. The sooner you get involved in a child's life, the better the outcome, because you have the opportunity to mold that child to whatever expectations you have for that child.
So if do you have me on another device? Because I'm echoing.
No.
Okay. So for Anna, still on that point, Doc, you said the sooner you get into a child's life, the better it is for the child. You've said that over and over again. But what would you say to a father who is trying really hard to get back into the life of children that he abandoned for whatever reason, and the children have not been receptive? What would you say to that father?
I would tell that father to exercise some patience. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight.
Mm-mm.
The separation of a child from the father comes with a lot of scars.
Yeah.
The feeling of rejection, a lot of emotional situations. You're not going to show up one day and everything is going to be okay. It's a work in progress. You have to walk your way back to that child's life, and just exercise patience, and get help. Sometimes it may take another person to break through into the child for you. It doesn't have to be you. One of the things that we have to try to do as much as possible, if you realize that a child connects with somebody else more, you can use that person to break through. So it's not about you like hitting your head on the brick wall over and over. No, find other ways to connect with the child. But it's going to take some time. Don't give up.
Mm-hmm. Don't give up. Angel says that men have issues with women who already have children, but they think it's okay for them to litter kids everywhere.
Unfortunately, that is so true.
No, but I think you need to speak to our African men on that, please.
Yes, I think that is so true. Because what I'll just describe in my case is the other way around is a non-issue.
Yeah.
The other way around is a non-issue.
Yeah.
But this woman had that child. I mean, that child has a father somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? And for some reason, the father walks into a marriage and there's no baggage, so to speak. But when it's the woman, we call it baggage and all of that stuff. That's a terrible word, baggage, referring to children.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of that reawakening. I think we have to, the community has to change the mindset. We really have to grow up, so to speak, as human beings.
Yeah.
This whole woman's experience, you can see that these are some of those tenets of trying to bring the woman down, trying to, I don't know, it's not a competition. Let us try to uplift one another. Today we're talking about women's right to vote and all of those things. Let us try to be humans. Let us try to be humans. This is the 21st century. Look at your daughter at home. You don't want anybody to treat her any different.
Yeah.
Look at every woman in the eyes of your daughter and your mother. I think that is the mindset that we have to cultivate as men. It is very important and teach our young guys, teach our boys at home to be respectful to women. I think this generation is hard to change. Maybe we can invest in the upcoming generation, our children, our sons.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not saying that we should just not try to change this current generation, but let us also try to instill the mindset to our sons so that they can treat women as equal and be respectful towards women.
Yeah, I agree with you. So Helen Matem says a lot of men and women find it difficult to warm up to children who are not biologically theirs. As a single parent, if you identify that your proposed husband or wife is not ready to accept your child, it's in your best interest and that of the child not to go into such a marriage.
I can agree more. Because if the man connects with you and not with your child, it means somebody's going to be left out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Somebody's going to be left out. And that is a very, very bad place for that child to be.
yeah.
You know, this is the child being abandoned the second time, potentially.
Yes.
Because if the woman has that child, you know, and then the next man comes in the picture and does not embrace that child. Can you imagine that? Potentially rejected twice?
Yes.
It is terrible. So I would agree, no matter what the love angle is, if the man is not willing to embrace that child, unfortunately, I think it's a no-no.
So
for the sake of that child, there's no point moving forward.
Matt Flaw says, what advice would you give to women who don't accept children their husbands had out of wedlock? So flip it.
I think the same holds for the other way around, but very rarely you would find that scenario. But if you cannot accept the other person's child, then there's no marriage, because you're pretty much saying that, okay, I'm going to be with this man, but the child will be left outside. I mean, I don't see what kind of a parent would want to indulge in that kind of relationship. It's just, I don't see that happening. It's not good for that child.
Okay. Final two questions. Do you think that looking at because I know that you're a very active member of the African community where you are, do you find that, or is it true that a lot more African children are being abandoned by their fathers than the non-African children, or what should I call it, relationships?
You mean more Africans than compared to other black, or compared to like the mainstream?
Mainstream.
I know about blacks more so than the mainstream. But Africans per se, I don't know about that data. Okay, if it is predominant with Africans compared to, say, other blacks.
So let me ask you the question. Let me bring it back home to Cameroon. Do you think there's an increase of single parent homes among the Cameroonian community?
I think so.
And why?
But I must say that it's not only among the Cameroon. It's just a global thing. It's a global thing. Let me just say this. I saw this from between 1960 and today, the rate of divorce has increased 250%. 250%. Wow. Between 1960 and now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem, and that is why this conversation is very important. With that increase means there are many, many children that are potentially needing a father figure in their lives. And that is why we have to be that community once again.
Yeah.
We have to look out. It's your cousin's child, you know, maybe you need somebody to help with basketball. You need somebody to help with, you know, homework. You need somebody to go do fishing if that's what you do. Just step in and help out as much as possible. But I think the number is on the rise. I don't know if it's specifically to Cameroon community, but globally, yes, we are on the rise.
And there's some really damning statistics on children, especially young boys who grow up without the father. You know, like 85% of youths in prisons have an absent father in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, all those kind of things. The highest rate of promiscuity and teenage pregnancies from children who come from single parent homes where their father is absent. Like,
it's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle. It just keeps going on and on.
Yeah.
And that's why it takes a lot of effort to break that cycle. It takes a lot of effort to break that cycle. You look at those statistics, especially in the US, 1 in every, I think, 8 household, the child, you know, this parent incarcerated, you know, it's devastating. You're talking about incarceration, you're talking about divorce and other things. So there are so many children out there that need us to step in and help and just mentor them.
Yeah. So I think this is a question from Mr. Gebi Leke, who asked, should wives accept children brought home from extramarital affairs? And then I will flip that back to you, Mr. Gebileke, to ask you, should husbands accept children that are brought in from extramarital affairs?
That is, I would say yes in either case. I would say yes, even for the sake of the child. For the sake of the child, I mean, what are we saying? If you're accepting the woman, are you saying that you're accepting the wife and then the child is out? You know, I mean, it's up to the individual to decide if they want to continue with the relationship, right? Bringing a child means there's some adultery somewhere. And it's up to the individual to, I know in your last show, you were asking if the woman can forgive. More women said they could forgive a man for an act like that. And the men were like, sometimes men, it's all about pride, right? Yes. Sometimes it's all about pride. To be honest with you, there are some things that you think you would do, but when you're faced with them, you wouldn't act the way you thought you would act. To say that you're going to divorce your wife because something happens, something singular happens. I think a lot of men would say yes, of course. It's kind of a bragging thing to say.
Yeah.
But it's a case by case. You sit down and it's a moment of truth. And if it hasn't happened, you will not know how you're going to react until it happens. I don't think you know what you're going to do.
And so, and another thing I'll say to the men is that a lot of you, that's why you would find a lot of men who find some way to assuage their pain, because a lot of you lose out on your relationships out of pride.
Pride is our big problem.
Yeah, but for many of our African men, a lot of our African men, if they think that you have behaved, you know, or strayed away from the concept of what they think a good woman should be, they will let you go, not because they wanted to let you go, but because their ego has been bruised. And
then they will live to regret.
And then they live to regret, and then they'll find woman after woman to fill that void, that, you know, and even probably marry and be in a loveless relationship just because they wanted to conform to, you know, to what society.
Because you appear a weak man before your peers.
So please don't let pride, ego, and society, you know, ruin life.
So every situation is different. Every relationship is different. Something happens, you know, you don't know what you're going to do until you put all those pieces together.
Yeah.
Any response is premature before the fact.
Okay, I hope you got that, Uncle Gaby. And I like this thesis question. I was gonna come, but she said, all that said, Doc, would you say people should stay in toxic marriages or relationships in the name of trying to give their children the best of both parents?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
I can't say that enough.
Good.
You know, when it comes to safety, you know, if any woman or man feels unsafe in a relationship, I would advise them to out. Safety first. But you can still be out and in the life of your child. That is a different scenario.
Yeah. You can still be out, but in the life of your child, but the child's safety comes first.
Absolutely. Yeah, the child's safety and your safety comes first.
Safety comes first. Honestly, this has been a really, really, really good conversation. Guys, hasn't it been? Some people are joining us when we're at the end. I promised you an hour and 30 minutes, Doc, but it's an hour and 39
It's been great. I didn't believe that we've already exhausted 1 hour. I was asking you what are we going to be talking for 1 hour.
Exactly. People always ask that. But no, thank you. This has been great. I mean, any final questions from our other guests, and for you, Doc, any final advice, you know, on this topic, what is the role of a father or father figure in the life of a child? Any final words of advice? Or
I would say that I mean, you see those statistics, you know, we have to leave the world a better place for our children. You know, our parents have done their part. We have been raised in so many cases by uncles, by other extended family members. Let us not forget where we came from. Let us first and foremost be there for our own children. And in addition to that, let us look around. If there's a child that is struggling next door, be it a relative or not, do something in your capacity to be of help. We've seen stories where people become successful and they attribute their well-being to some stranger that stepped in one day that they needed help the most. Maybe take them for training, take them for something that they needed, providing something that they needed. So let us continue to keep that going. You know, let us put our children first. Let us not be selfish. I would say selfish. Let's not be selfish. Let us put our children first because they are innocent. We brought them into this world, and it is our responsibility first and foremost to raise them, to nurture them, and to prepare them for tomorrow. So no matter what differences you may have with your spouse, let the children take priority, and let us be open to one another to make that happen. And put ourselves, let us step back and keep the children, you know, welfare. Let's make it a priority.
And if you're a child who was raised without a biological father in your life and you're an adult now, what final words do you have to say to that person?
I would say that there's that void. I will speak for myself, and I know a lot of people can relate to that. There's that void if you have the absence of your father in your life. If your father is existing somewhere, and especially if your father is giving you that hand, please try to reach out. Try to reach out. And if you're the mother of this child, for the child's sake, try to encourage that. Let that happen. That is good for that child. You know, and I know as a mother, you want the best for that child. Don't forget that important connection. That will go a long way to make the child whole. So that is a relationship that should be encouraged. Especially if all the safety checks have been met.
And the adult who is carrying that void, like you said, it's never too late to seek for therapy for extended.
It's never too late. You don't want to wait on your dying bed and you just want to hold your son's hand and say, you know, forgive me, my child, or, you know, because that realization is going to hit sooner than later. So you want to reach out as soon as you can and make amends.
And you're right. Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Goretti, and congratulations again for all what you've been doing. The topics have been very, very helpful to the community, and by all means, keep doing what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And final goodbye to your guests. You're going to say bye 3 times now.
Oh, I have to say bye 3 times?
No. I'm just saying, I know you've said the final words, but you have
your
guests who have stayed here to watch.
Yep. Thank you. It's been a great afternoon.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, Doc. I'm going to keep you backstage now while I say goodbye to your guests.
All right. Thank you for staying engaged. Thank you, everybody, for the questions and the conversation. It's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I hope for some reason comments are not coming up. I hope that it's not frozen. Okay. All right, Doc. I'll keep you backstage. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks, Tessie. Thank you all for watching, for participating as usual. Thank you to the TWE tribe. So if you're new to us, hey, stay. Well, this is episode 49. So like I said at the beginning, in my opening, we have 48 other episodes, other conversations. Like you said, great topics that they are really truly worth revisiting. I'm sure many of us will agree with me as I say that. So thank you. This topic, I'm glad we had it, and I hope, and I know that those who encouraged me to have this conversation are watching, and I hope that your questions were answered, or you got some kind of direction from this. But I would say is that if you can, if there is a chance for you to reach out and build that bridge, no matter, even if it means taking it one brick at a time. If you can build the bridge, seize the opportunity. Seize the opportunity to have your father in your life. Seize the opportunity to have your child in your life. Seize the opportunity to, as a mother, to let that child have that relationship with their father. It is their father. It's the only biological father they're going to have. If he's not posing any harm to their lives, give them the opportunity. If he's not posing any, harm to you, reach out and, take the hand if the hand is extended. If it's not, if you can look for him, find him. But thank you guys so much, so much. So next week is our 50th episode. Yay! And it's going to be on Friday. There will be no show on Wednesday. So we go to our weekly shows from next week. Friday, it's our next show, and I'm really excited. We are in breast. This is October. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and our show on Friday is on breast cancer, and we have two amazing guests. We have a doctor, an oncologist who's joining us, and we have a young lady who got diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 37. And it can happen to you, it can happen to me. So it is worth sitting in, having that conversation, joining us so that we know the signs, we know what to look for, and we know how to prevent it. If we can, breast cancer. But thank you. And as you're dropping off, don't drop off so quick without going back. My mental health is showing on my YouTube channel, so subscribe, make sure you watch it. And if you haven't already and you're new to our page, hey, welcome, and please don't leave without liking it. Like the GORETTI Experience page, and thank you. Stay updated on our shows, stay and watch, and I'm going to see you next week, Friday. And I can't wait. I can't wait for us to have that conversation on breast cancer. But you've been amazing. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.